trailblazing now.
I know, I'm impressed.
To ask another broad question that follows on from that, when you hit on Hellboy, obviously there are many factors that go into the success of a property like that, but anything that you can share in terms of advice for developing a property to, to try to achieve that kind of success across media and yet maintain control of it the way that you have?
Well, I would think if you want success across all this media, first thing I would say, don't ever name it Hellboy. I have no idea. I have no idea because when I created Hellboy, it was right after the whole Image thing happened. So all these guys were making $1 trillion, and it kind of came down through channels that if I wanted to do something for Image, I could do that. I briefly entertained, well, people like the way I draw Batman. Maybe I could make sort of a Batman kind of thing. And I figured, I'd spend a year drawing it, nobody would buy it, and I'd hate the whole time that I'm doing it. So if I'm going to do my own thing, why don't I see if I can just make up something that I would enjoy? It's a 99% chance that nobody's going to give a shit about it, but I'll have a good time and I'll limp back into doing Batman or whatever else I can get a job doing. But at least I'll have this one thing on my shelf where I can say, once I did exactly what I wanted to do. And on the off chance that it works, I'm stuck drawing the book that I really want to do. So I put a lot of thought into the design of Hellboy and the broadness of Hellboy, the fact that I could do every different kind of story with that character. Because if it did work, I didn't want to have this kind of narrow thing that I, could work in, and I wanted to make sure I designed a character that would be fun to draw. I mean, my first thought was to do a regular human being, a cult detective. That's the kind of stuff I like to read. But I knew I'd get bored drawing a guy. No matter what the guy looked like, it would be a guy, and I'd get tired of drawing it. So I had drawn this monster kind of character for fun 2 or 3 times, and I went, I like this guy. If I get stuck drawing something, first off, no matter how terrible a drawing I do of him, he's red, he's got the little goatee, you can always tell it's him. So, yeah, any success that happened with it is purely, none of it was designed. So my advice, my art advice, I have no idea how to give business advice, but my art advice to guys is, if you're going to try doing your own thing, make it something you enjoy. I believe that the fans can tell. I believe it shows in the work if you're doing it for the paycheck, if you're doing it to try to sell a movie deal, or you're doing it because it's something you really care about. And chances are, the thing that you really love and the thing you really care about, it's not going to be a giant commercial success. But I have no idea how to create a commercial success. But at least try it. I mean, it doesn't have to be a 100-page graphic novel. Do a 6-page story. Just so something's out there where you can say, that's my personality. My goal these days especially is to do work that nobody else would do, because it's entirely made of my personality. It's not me looking over there going, ooh, I need to do something like that because that will sell. Good job.
How do you get, like professionally, how do you get through art blocks? Like,
art blocks?
Yeah, like when you feel you're not doing your best.
You kind of push through it. I mean, there's definitely days I don't want to be working. But part of, I guess what's lucky for me is I've never known how to not work. I've worked 7 days a week ever since I started in comics. So if I have a day where I really don't feel like drawing, I still don't know what the hell to do. So I end up at the drawing table. And you just have to push through it. Story stuff sometimes is tougher because, how do you sit down and draw if you don't know what you're going to draw? I don't know. There's no easy answer except that I'm not one of those guys who's going to sit around in the backyard waiting for inspiration to strike. I got to work. I have to pay the mortgage. I don't do much else. The wife takes care of all the bills and everything else. I just got to do my one bit, which is sitting there and draw my little stories.
You're right here. And you raise your hand.
You're going to.
So I was wondering how much of what you do now is film versus comics. It seems like there's a lot more of a film focus, and I'm wondering how does that fit in? Is it a sort of different thing or a continuation of the comics and the drawing as well?
Right now, there's absolutely no film. I don't pursue film work, and unless it's Guillermo del Toro, the phone doesn't ring about me doing film work. I'm not cut out to be a film guy, and I really have no interest in pursuing film work. It's like working with Del Toro I worked with him on Blade 2 and Hellboy 2. It was kind of like going to summer camp. You know, I'd go move into a hotel with the other production designers and spend a really intense period designing stuff. And that was really fun on Blade. It was really fun on the first Hellboy picture. By the second Hellboy picture, it was like, not so much fun anymore. You know, the problem is, or not really a problem, I have the best day job. So no matter what I'm doing, it's kind of fun for a while, but I got to get back and work on comics. Comics is the only thing I can do where I can do exactly what I want. If you work in film, even on the Hellboy stuff, it's somebody else's movie. And I hate like hell spending months of my time doing drawings and designing stuff that never gets used. Whereas if I could do it over again, I shouldn't say this because we're filming, but if the opportunity arose again, spending 3 months in a production office working on a film, doing work that may or may not influence the film, my time is better spent those 3 months in the studio where whatever I draw is published. And it's exactly what I want to be doing. So it's been a great experience, but all these things I've done, the Atlantis film for Disney, the live action pictures, they're never anything I pursued. In every case, somebody's come to me and just kind of said, hey, why don't you try this? Okay, that'll be fun. But they've been these strange little fun novelties.
You started to touch on this earlier, but when you started Hellboy, you did the 6 to 7 page short stories. So I was wondering, when you did that, what was your strategy for sort of getting it out in front of people and getting it seen and getting people talking about it? And the second part is, what would you suggest to somebody else taking that same approach?
Well, again, there was never any strategy on Hellboy. The first one was a miniseries. I started with the miniseries. I did do these 2 little almost trial runs of Hellboy. And that's because someone at Dark Horse said, let's preview the character here. One was a San Diego comic, you know, so let's do a sampler of Hellboy there, and then some other thing, I can't remember what it was, let's do a little sampler of Hellboy here. So I came up with these fun little bits. And it was, it was kind of a dry run for Hellboy. At the same time, I was plotting the first miniseries. And then after that, usually what dictated the Hellboy stories, at the beginning at least, was somebody would say, can you do a 22-page Hellboy story that can appear in 2-page installments? So you make up a story that will work for that. Or, the second Hellboy thing I did, after the first miniseries, somebody said, well, why don't you run it in Dark Horse Presents for a while? So you come up with a story that can run in, 6-page installments, whatever it was. So it was just, it was an interesting experience because I would be given a format and then try to come up with a story that worked in that format. And then as things went along, as I'm plotting stories, sometimes you plot a story and it's just a 6-page story. If you're familiar with these books Dark Horse did, like the Dark Horse Book of Monsters, the Dark Horse Book of Ghosts, I can't remember what they were, Dark Horse Book of the Dead, all those books came about because I came up with a story and told my editor, I've got this 8-page story, I don't know what to do with. And he said, well, then let's do an anthology on monsters. So we have a place to put that monster story.